Gmar Chatima Tova and Shana Tova to you all, beloved JCOG's community. Tonight, I want to explore with you cycles of time and the power of sevens, a number that sits at the core of our tradition. Sevens signify holiness and deep relationship to community, to land, and to God. There are the 7 days, each of Passover and Sukkot, the 7 days of the Shiva mourning period, the 7 weeks of counting the Omer before Shavuot, the 7 branches of the menorah in the temple, the 7 species in the land of Israel, and the high holidays fall in the 7th month, known as Tishrei. But at our foundation, it is the cycle of 7 days, culminating in Shabbat, that has sustained us most through good and difficult times across millennia. As Israeli writer Achad Ha'am famously said, more than Jews have kept Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the Jews. And at the peak of the Shabbat cycle is Shabbat Shabbaton, a Sabbath of Sabbaths, the name for Yom Kippur given by our sacred Torah. Tonight, we have reached the peak, Shabbat Shabbaton, of our holiest days, the height of time itself. But this year of 5782, we go even beyond the weekly cycle of Shabbat and the yearly cycle of Yom Kippur as we begin the final year of the biblical 7-year cycle known as Shemitah. While Yom Kippur is but 1 day of rest and renewal, our ancient ancestors envisioned an entire year of rest and reflection every 7 years. This cycle of Shemitah is also called Shabbat Shabbaton. Shabbat Shabbaton yihiyeh la'aretz Shabbat l'Adonai. A Sabbath of Sabbaths shall there be for the land, a Shabbat for God. Shabbat, Yom Kippur, all of our holidays, and yes, an entire year are all meant to be used as time for spirit renewal. Stop your work, stop producing, and just be. Here's what we learn from across our Torah about the year of Shemitah. V'ger lo tilchatz. You shall not oppress a stranger, for your soul knows what it is like to be the stranger, having yourselves been strangers in the land of Egypt. 6 years you shall sow your land and gather in its yield, but in the 7th you shall let it rest and lie fallow. Let the needy among your people eat of it. Vavadcha 6 shanim. If your fellow is sold to you, they shall serve you 6 years, but in the 7th year you shall set them free, but do not let them go empty-handed. Miket 7 shanim taseh shmita, and every 7th year you shall practice remission of debts. Hakhel et ha'am. Every 7th year, the year of Shemitah, gather the people, men, women, children, and the strangers in your communities, that they may hear and learn and follow the teachings of the Torah. At its foundation, Shemitah is an original social justice movement and a vision of sacred community that cares about a life well lived for all, where we rear our children with wisdom, care for the land and its workers, and all have ample to thrive. Time is kind of an interesting thing, isn't it? In many ways, we have just lived through a very warped version of Shemitah. Trapped in our homes for more than a year, we have certainly had our time to reflect. Perhaps too much time. This period, with all of its tragedy, has afforded us the opportunity to consider what is important to us. This pandemic has helped us in many ways lay fallow the facade of cordiality and inauthenticity, creating opportunities towards deeper connections. And while we are far from over this, with all that we have learned from this cycle of time, we can begin to envision a post-pandemic community and world. But let's face it, this has not been the most restful time. During a recent Friday night service, one of our members, a local farmer, Safira Oshkelo, called Shemitah a time of 4 R's: rest, reflection, release, and receiving. I think we could all use a real Shemitah year. A time to rest from stress and overwork. A time to reflect on what matters to us and our communities. A time to release what holds us back. And a time for all to receive the abundance that life offers so that all may thrive. Sevens are important for our JCOG's community and for me personally too. For 7 years, I have now served as the first full-time rabbi of this Jewish community of Greater Stowe. And recently, the Board of Trustees of JCOG's, representing our community, and I have signed another 7-year contract together. Cycles of 7. Our family is so blessed to be here among you. Together, let's start our Shemitah communal reflection of 5782 by taking stock of the bounty and impact of what we've accomplished in JCOG's short history. In order to thrive in these challenging times, we need to adapt. And to do so, we need time for reflection. In light of the pandemic and the Shemitah year, let us reflect together on our shared future, how JCOG's is adapting in a new world to meet the challenges of this tumultuous 21st century and the needs of our members and local community. Our JCOG's mission has always been to create and sustain an environment that perpetuates and celebrates Jewish traditions, observances, and sense of community. We are building a multi-generational community. Hey there, little yawning one over there. Where differences are embraced, even celebrated, and where we hope that all those who walk through our doors or into our tent feel like they have come home. You, our founders and members, have created something very special here at JCOG's. A beautiful building, a Jewish cemetery to honor our departed, and we are so blessed with an incredible board of trustees, committee members and chairs, and our wonderful staff. Over this past Shemitah cycle, we have seen our membership increase, our religious school grow in many ways. We have learned and prayed together. We have hosted events, dinners, concerts, film screenings. We've produced the first ever JCOG's album in our sanctuary and brought out the incredible musical talent at JCOG's in full holy display tonight. And we help warm toes, host blood drives, glean produce, collect winter clothes, and were instrumental in the creation of the Lamoille Community House Warming Shelter and the Racial Equity Alliance of Lamoille through our Tikkun Olam efforts. All this in a community where Jews were not always welcome, and in a world where anti-Semitism is still real and alive. We have mourned through the Pittsburgh shooting and other tragedies that befell our people and others. And we have been a part of positive change, including multiple local school districts making this Yom Kippur a day off. And while we are enduring a pandemic, as the need for community has only increased, our Chesed Committee recently produced a beautiful grieving booklet and are busy reaching out to our most vulnerable members. We have celebrated Zoom mitzvahs and micro weddings as we hosted Friday night services and other events on Zoom for over a year. Reflecting on our community growth, how do we take the lessons learned to reimagine our collective future? Let me share with you a few JCOG's initiatives in the works for 5782 and beyond, guided by the teachings of Shemitah. Open your minds to your own ideas and how you might further embrace this year within community. Our community must always begin with access and belonging. What can we do to create a more inclusive place with more points of entry and engagement? Let's start by bearing witness to tonight, how we are gathered in this unprecedented way in a hybrid, multi-access service, those here in person and those at home all together. This is what our community will look like for the foreseeable future as we create greater access to Jewish life. Access and belonging are also why we've initiated the Nosh, a community hub for schmoozing, coffee, and the finest homemade Jewish pastries this side of the Maple Beltway. Think baking demonstrations and music and poetry nights and lectures or mahjong groups meeting up with partial proceeds to benefit both JCOG's and Capstone Community Action's Essentials Closet. If you have a program or group you want to bring together around food, I mean, we're all Jewish, we all want to do that, we will help you make it happen. Essential to the Shemitah year is hearing and learning Torah's wisdom. On October 4th, we launch a Zoom cohort of learners using the new cutting-edge Foundations for a Thoughtful Judaism curriculum from the renowned Shalom Hartman Institute, combining text-based learning and experiential practices. We are building communities within our community, to draw people together through more personal connections so each of us is noticed and counted. Here we use the power of communal learning as a foundation for a thoughtfully led life. And one of the biggest changes in learning is that we've launched a new partnership with Beth Jacob Synagogue in Montpelier, as the synagogues support each other's youth and family learning, passing on our Torah's values to the next generation. This year's mitzvah program, which launches this coming Shabbat, will look a lot different. We're leaning into the educational truism of show, don't tell, by structuring our mitzvah program around Saturday mornings, including a once-a-month Shabbat morning service for the whole community. That includes Torah reading and discussion, followed by Kiddush. Embracing Shabbat is an essential part of the Shemitah year, putting into practice rest, reflection, and Torah learning. That is why once a month we're also going to focus our Friday night services on Shemitah, studying texts on the topic and discussing how we are embracing its values in our congregational life. Of course, sustainability is at the heart of the Shemitah year. From vegan cooking classes to regenerative farming discussions to planting and now caring for our beautiful mitzvah garden back there, our green team has been busy at work. We have a stunning community-made mosaic to adorn the garden, and the food growth has both sustained us and others at our Friday night onegs and donated to our local food share. This new year, the green team will be focusing on the climate crisis by making our JCOG's building more energy efficient, while providing resources and support to help you make your own homes more sustainable. In addition, our cemetery committee is actively working on a new section of our cemetery for green burials. The Shemitah year is also about the imperative of equity. Don't oppress the stranger. Forgive debts owed. Let the needy among you eat. As I mentioned on Rosh Hashanah, this year we are going to see a different kind of dedication to Tikkun Olam than in the past. We are inviting our members to help us choose which one issue JCOG is going to work on in depth for the year through educational and religious programming, committee work, hands-on direct service, and advocacy, where we can have a meaningful local impact. There are two overriding local issues that desperately need addressing in our area: housing insecurity, the lack of affordable housing, and food insecurity, and the need to address hunger and nutrition in our area. After Yom Kippur, you are going to see a 60-second survey in your email, and I ask you to please help us decide where we wish to put our collective energy this year. Take a minute now to settle into this new year. Maybe even take a deep breath. How could this year of 5782 be different from all other years? How will you embrace rest and reflection in your life? What do you want to release or lay fallow? What might you deepen in your life? All of the JCOG's varied initiatives I mentioned weave together themes that we ought to embed into our lives every year. Connecting to people, rest, reflection, learning, sustainability, longing, and equity. How might you contribute to the building up of our JCOG's community? How might you join others, together with others, through Tikkun Olam, Chesed, learning, Shabbat, or providing a nosh to create access and belonging? Through the works of our community's hands and our hearts, may this awesome day and this whole year live up to the name Shabbat Shabbaton, a Sabbath of Sabbaths, that we may help reach our peak of holy time to see our world truly fulfilled for all. Gmar Chatima Tova, may we all be inscribed in the book of life, and Shana Tova. Amen. To a happy and healthy new year.